Alright guys, welcome back for another video. I'm gonna go over SPY the market, talk about the price action from last week, talk about the future target as well, and also my game plan for next week as well. Let's get into it. But before actually talking about the price action, I want to talk about the different event. We need to go over the weekly calendar. It's really important as trader to know exactly what we'll be dealing with next week. So let's get into that. Alright, so here I have the weekly calendar here with me here. And if we look at the weekly calendar here, you will see that on Monday we're pretty much starting with the US economic indicator. We're gonna have that data coming out at 10 a.m. EST. So next week, what's really important is inflation. So next week is going to be inflation week. That's all really important. However, since the government is shut down, we may not have that data. Right? That data will be delayed. We may have that data at a later date. And that's something that as traders we need to actually be aware of in this current conditions. So the main data that may move the market won't be available to us right away and might actually come out later. So that might be really tricky as making trading decision, and that's something I want you guys to know. Nonetheless, we need to know what's going on. All right, so again, on Monday we have US economic calendar. On Tuesday and Wednesday we have some Fed speaker. All right, so nothing crazy, right, for the first 3 days. And on Thursday we have initial jobless claim. That's the data that come every week. We have existing homeless sales. So we have 2 more Fed speaker as well speaking. Right, no major news. Right, but those Fed speaker can actually make some comment that can actually move the market. However, on Friday that's the biggest day. That's the inflation day right here. So on Friday we have consumer price index, or with the CPI, so that's the inflation coming from the consumer side, and we also have consumer sentiment. All right, so most likely we're not gonna have that data released to the public. As you can see here, even this website actually have that data subject to delay if government shutdown continues. So most likely the government shutdown will be still on from next week. So most likely we won't have that data coming out next week to us. It won't be available to us. So me swinging overnight from Thursday to Friday, then that I may not have to worry about this because this might not be available to the public to actually affect the market. I think this data will be held and release later. But that's quickly what we have during this week. But let's go over the price action of SPY really quick and talk about the price action and see what we need to expect next week. So if you look at the price action really quick, let me hide quickly the drawing that I have here so we can actually look at the whole chart really quick. So if you look at the price action again on the weekly time frame, we have a strong uptrend, or the market been moving up to the upside really strong. Right? And until like 2 weeks ago, we actually have a big red wick. That's that candle right here. Let's actually make this bigger. So we have that red wick, which is pretty much all together forming a nice bearish engulfing pattern at the top right here, which is a bearish sign. However, so far we haven't had a continuation. All right, the reason why we're having a continuation because we're still holding that low right here. The fact that we're holding that low still that okay, they see some buying pressure. But if you actually lost that low, that's gonna be a nice bearish sign from the market to go lower. Because this right here, this is a strong selling side, alright, and especially at the top, that's a bearish engulfing pattern. If you know about your candlestick pattern, that's a good one to actually know. And you also have even like some good volume backing up right away. But the good entry will be when we lose that low right here, which you haven't. We came down for a test and we actually bounced. So last week again we gave a daily time frame. I'm gonna go over the daily time frame. It may be choppy, right? And you can see that if you don't know, right? So if you look at the weekly time frame, you can already tell that the daily time frame is choppy because we actually trade inside the previous week candle. Alright, so this candle right here is pretty much an inside candle. But it hasn't been going anywhere. We haven't cleared the high, which is gonna be also the all-time high. We also haven't cleared the low. We pretty much trade inside it. So again, let's quickly, actually I'm gonna bring by my levels really quick. If I go to the daily time frame really quick, you will see that for the past 5 days, while we pretty much seen around this level. We haven't gone anywhere. It's pretty much a choppy price action. We haven't been anywhere. Are pretty much trading between the 652 and the 670, which is a nice range to actually trade. So if you're a day trader, that's a nice range. But for a swing trader, this trend is really too tight. We haven't been going anywhere. We pretty much bumping to be between those two main levels, and we haven't been going anywhere. So the previous day on Friday here, we had a big sell-off and we haven't had a continuation. We pretty much gap up and pretty much stay around this level. And if you look at it, we close just above the Monday high of the price action. But what we need to actually focus on is where can we go next week? Or again, it's going to be a pretty tricky price action altogether. Like last week was really tricky. It was not the best price action altogether because even though we have a choppy price action on the daily time frame, you can see that. But we had some huge move that actually happened because Trump was actually the issue with the tariff with China, And every time you talk about China, right, depending on whatever he said, we have a strong sell-off, and later, just right away, yeah, you will say something positive, and the market will actually bounce back up. And that was actually a pain in the ass last week. All right, so next week we'll see how it goes. So far, it seems to be really optimistic regarding the talk with China. So if that actually happened, because so far last week that was the main narrative that actually moved the market. We'll see how it goes. I have like 4 key main level that I'm definitely watching. Altogether, the main key level I'm watching right here is this right here, the outer level, right? So pretty much the external level will be the all-time high. Those are the level we haven't tested yet, and the weekly low right here. So right, we almost tested that last week. Well, we haven't really tested that, but that's the weekly low. That's what we have right here. So altogether, it's also almost like the high of Friday, the previous Friday, and this one as well. So we'll see how we actually trade. But from next week, though, what I'm looking to actually see to actually form a bullish sentiment, I definitely need to see the price above the 665. So this level is about like 664.4, but definitely above the 665. I want to actually be above that level. So if you do that from the 665 to the 670, that's a 5-point move to the upside. That's where I will look for a nice bullish opportunity. But altogether, it's not the best price action to actually trade so far, really. So I would say if you know a day trader, if you want to swing, it's gonna be really tough. But altogether, so far the market is still in the bullish sign. Personally, I wouldn't be too bullish, alright. So because I don't want to buy at the top, but I would like to see if I see some sign of bullishness. Of course, I'm gonna be trading that trend on the short term. Other than that, I would love to see some downside movement, right? So if we cannot clear the 665 and definitely not clear the previous week low, close right here, if we stay below that level, then we can see the price actually come back and test the previous week low at this level right here. And if we lose that, as I said prior, if we lose that low right here, we can actually have a strong selling pressure. So if you come down here from 654 to all the way to 652, that's a big range, a big nice move that we can actually have down here. So I'm definitely watching to see a potential move. Quickly, let's actually go for my day trader. Let's go to the 1 hour really quick. So if you go to the 1 hour, you can see how we've been trading, right? So we have a strong selling pressure right here on that level, and after that we have a gap right here. And after that, we can see that we try to reclaim the 665 or at least the 664.4, and we cannot stay above it, right? We pretty much try open here to actually reach the 670, came back down here, lose that level, again came back, created that weekly low right here, have a strong bounce, right? So this at this level, we have pretty much some bearish news regarding the tariff news, and later down the line, Trump came out and actually talked about the positive news with China regarding the tariff, and the market actually bounced really hard and rallied the rest of the day, right? And we were able to actually close just above this, but we still not really sure if we actually clear that level. Again, this actually, whether we above it actually after hour of Friday, so we don't know for sure if we actually clear that level. On Monday, we will know for sure if we stay above it, then we can actually push higher. But if we actually lose that, then we can actually have a strong selling pressure like we saw here. When we lost that level, we actually have a nice selling pressure. So that's something I'm definitely watching. I'm watching the 665 to be above it for me to actually have a bullish vibe from the market. But if we actually lose the 664.4, actually the 6 even go lower to the 664. If you actually lose that to actually have your own level, if you lose that, then we can actually go lower, and the target that I will have right away is going to be the 666 level right here. You can actually have that level in our chart just because, and that's going to be a good level. If you lose that, if you're day trader, that's going to be a good level to actually watch. That's that. It's not the swing level for me, right? The swing level going to be the low right here. That's a bigger move. But for if you want to day trade, that's going to be a big target. Again, if I go again for on the weekly time, on the 15-minute time frame, so the 666 a key level right here that we have actually have the bounce. You can see that there's a nice support at this level. So if you actually want to have a zone support, a support zone at that level, that's how it's gonna look like. So they have the here. That's exactly how it's gonna look like. All right. Since I'm pretty much a supply demand trader, and that's what I like to look for. All right. So just right here in that zone, if you come down here, we can actually have a possible bounce right here. All right, but specifically watching the 650 level. Okay, 650. Actually move this a little bit. Actually fix that. Oh yeah. boom. So definitely watching this really quick, but that's mainly what I have here. So that's the key level I'm watching, and the pre-market weekly high right here. If it's stable again, it's 665. I'm definitely watching for a while near that 670, and if we can clear that, well, we can go straight away for the all-time high. But before that, I still need to see where we open on Monday, and based on that, then my gameplay will be set. But I'm done. I make this video too long, so I'm gonna stop here. Thanks for watching, and catch you on the next one.